Hey, what's up? So NVIDIA just pushed a Game Ready Driver, 595.71 WHQL, and honestly this one reads like a quick repair job and also brings a little polish for the newest games. This release adds optimizations and official support for the newest titles that use NVIDIA's latest features, and it specifically calls out support for Resident Evil Requiem with DLSS 4 and Marathon with DLSS Super Resolution plus NVIDIA Reflex, which should matter if you care about the absolute best fidelity and responsiveness in those launches. The context behind this patch is important because it's a corrective release. There was a prior driver that caused fan monitoring and even fan spin problems for some cards. That version got pulled, and this one explicitly lists fixes for those issues, so users won't be left nervous about installing an update. I'll be blunt. The reason this driver got attention is the pair of fan-related bug entries carried over from the pulled release. The notes call out that hardware monitoring utilities were not detecting all GPU fans and that one or more fans could stop spinning after the previous update. Those two lines sit at the top of the fixed general bugs list and are the exact things people reported in threads and issue trackers when the earlier driver was released and then removed. The community reaction was intense because fans stopping or being ignored by control utilities is scary from a thermal and reliability standpoint, and NVIDIA has now put those specific fixes into this package. Beyond the hardware monitoring items, this driver bundles a handful of game fixes that some players will notice right away. For example, the Ascent had an intermittent black bar appearing at the top of the screen on GeForce RTX 50 series GPUs, a visual annoyance that could pull you out of immersion. Total War 3 Kingdoms showed green artifacts on RTX 50 series hardware, which is obviously unacceptable when you're trying to parse Battlefield visuals. Final Fantasy XII in the Zodiac age could crash with a fatal error after a driver update. Call of Duty Modern Warfare from 2019 was reported to show image corruption after a driver update, and Quantum Break reportedly suffered a serious performance drop in a specific section, particularly Act 4, Part 1. These are the sorts of specific, reproducible game problems that get tracked internally and then closed when the driver team finds the underlying cause and patches it. There's also a smaller, more niche fix listed that will matter to pros who use certain capture and decode workflows. Blackmagic Design's AV1 decode could crash when multiple OBUs were packed into a single packet. If you're doing AV1 workflows with Blackmagic hardware or software, that's the kind of bug that can cause dropped frames or crashes in professional capture setups, so it's good to see that one acknowledged explicitly. You should know the release is positioned as a game-ready driver, which means NVIDIA is specifically signaling that the package is tuned for shipping game releases and the expected graphics feature set for those titles, including the DLSS 4 support mentioned for Resident Evil Requiem, and the DLSS Super Resolution plus NVIDIA Reflex support for Marathon, helping with both performance and input latency in competitive scenarios. That marketing label Game Ready isn't just a fancy title. It usually means certified compatibility and optimizations for a list of recently released or soon-to-release games. To paint the release in practical terms, if you were one of the unlucky users who installed the earlier package and saw your fan software only expose a single fan, or in worst cases noticed fans not spinning, this release is meant to be the fix that restores normal detection and control. Vendors, enthusiasts, and monitoring tool authors have been posting issues describing exactly that behavior, and the new notes put those entries to rest, at least on paper. Whether every single system will be flawless out of the gate depends on the enormous variety of card models, vendor firmware, and third-party utilities people run, but the specific symptoms that triggered the retraction are listed as resolved. One last bit of practical framing. Driver releases that arrive close to big game launches are almost always a mix of feature enablement and bug cleanup. And when something goes wrong in a hurried push, it tends to get noticed quickly because the install base is so large. This release reads as NVIDIA acknowledging that a recent rollout introduced unacceptable fan monitoring regressions, and then packaging a follow-up driver that both restores the expected behavior and carries the usual set of game-specific fixes and compatibility notes. The raw release notes list the game and general fixes clearly, so support teams and power users can match their own experiences to the entries in the changelog. That's the core of it, a corrective game-ready update that adds support and optimizations for the newest titles using NVIDIA's modern feature stack, while also explicitly remedying a pair of fan monitoring and fan spin problems introduced by the earlier package and closing several targeted game bugs and a specific AV1 decode crash with Blackmagic gear.